Colin, just you and me.
Just us again.
Just Colin and Greg. Apologies to everyone who is tuning in to like their second episode because our previous episode had our friend of the show, Daeshik Kim Hawkins Jr. Great talk. Very interesting guest.
Yeah.
Journalist, activist here in Seattle. This isn't like that. This is dog shit compared to that. This is just two like
beaten down, sad guys in a basement.
We're literally in a basement. Literally in a daylight
Yeah.
basement. There's like wood paneling and cowboy carvings around us. So apologies. It's not going to be that good, even as good as a normal episode of this show with all of our Seattle Sucks friends.
Mm-hmm.
But it does give us an opportunity, Colin.
Yeah.
To finally, you and me, the most sort of radically, ideologically political...
Belligerent.
Yes.
Ideologues, yeah.
Yeah, on the show, to finally hijack the podcast altogether and finally come out like loud and proud.
Yeah, I'm ready if you're
Yeah,
ready.
well, we've been grooming our audience for, only, 11 episodes now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're ready to finally sort of put it all together. And I don't know, what are we forming a new party in Seattle?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I nominate myself as the leader because if you've been listening, you know things Colin and I are for include ultra-nationalism. America, right or wrong, do or die.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of doing and dying involved is definite
dying.
plus.
Yeah.
We've been wronged by the world many times over, and that, I think, pretty much justifies the destruction of any other nation on Earth.
Yeah.
All for American imperialism.
Yeah, can't get enough. I mean, really can't get enough. And, of course, for us, as we've belabored on this show, it's really about the white race.
Yes,
and,
absolutely. Race as a concept.
As a concept, yes, absolutely. A first-class concept of society. And the nation. But we don't care too much about class. As long as you're the right race.
Yes, exactly. Race, very important. Nation, important. Class, forget about it. We believe, you've noticed by now, in a strictly hierarchical authoritarianism. Make America great again. What else is there to say?
There's not much more. I mean, we do also love putting people in cages.
Yes. Generally a sort of a law and order ethos over here. Big supporters of for-profit prisons and locking up really as many undesirables as is logistically possible.
True, and I should correct myself. When I said people, really, these are subhumans we're talking about.
Exactly.
Not people. So.
Exactly. One of our main themes is discussing and really exalting the captains of industry on this show.
Yeah.
One of our heroes, Jeff Bezos. We believe in industry and the state working together to make the nation strong and independent by whatever means necessary.
Yeah.
And if the billionaire class and Amazon has the solutions to strengthen the state in that way, then we're for them grabbing as much power as they can get their hands on.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And we should specifically also say that we're anti-socialist.
Absolutely. It's really sort of a founding ideology of sort of our way of looking at the world.
Because to your point about Amazon, whatever makes the economy stronger is positive, as long as it's not the redistribution of wealth. So.
Yes, no, that is absolutely off the table. Which explains our position on the recent head tax.
We've been very consistent.
Guys, if you haven't figured it out by now, it's fascism!
Yeah!
It's fascism, everybody! That's where we're at.
Yeah, we've always been here.
So, we're out of the closet.
We want the world to know. In a way, I mean, I think that the last show we did, maybe when we mischaracterized Jordan Peterson, we pulled ourselves to the right.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that was instrumental in us becoming fascist.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
really embracing our latent fascist tendencies.
Yeah, it was inevitable.
welcome back to the show. Just want to make it clear we're not fascist, but we're going to address that in a second here.
Yeah, welcome back to Seattle Sucks. Colin and Greg episode. I'm Greg.
I'm Colin.
We can't spend too much time on this, but it is so cool. It's just so cool.
When somebody you respect so much respects you in kind.
Yes.
It gives you a feeling that not many things in life.
So we got some clapback because of the last Just Greg and Colin episode. We just took a big, greasy dump all over Katie Herzog from The Stranger. And help me even wrap my head around the logic of this, Colin. But, her piece, the main one we trashed, was about, giving... not mischaracterizing the ideological right wing and the sort of fascist right, the nationalist, misogynist, sort of European chauvinist right, and giving them credit for their nuance and then also the importance of hearing all sides and being part of a conversation and her political analysis that if you do attack these people unfairly or mischaracterize them, that will only drive people to the right. And then someone quoted me in a tweet to her, saying her journalistic obsession with the exchange of ideas doesn't mean anything to most Americans.
Right.
And she just called me a fascist.
Right.
I mean, it's almost too good.
It's kind of surreal in context.
We're obviously just some nothing dorks on the internet to her, which, so maybe in her mind, we just don't warrant that consideration or that, self-control and, logic and cold analysis and that she applies to Jordan Peterson, who she refused to call out, and it was admonishing people for calling out. But I'm a fascist. Yeah. Anyway, let's not even spend any more time on that.
It's really not worth it.
It's really funny though.
It's unbelievably funny. I'm still reeling over it.
It's good. I mean, I've said this so many times on the show, but I've read The Stranger for 20 years, even when I didn't even live in the city. As you may have guessed by my tendency to sort of pompously, glibly pontificate on this podcast, I've probably had a latent, lifelong fantasy of being a public intellectual, and so I think at some time I probably did fantasize in my youth about someday maybe having a byline in The Stranger. And this is just so much better now that The Stranger is basically falling apart and is just
what's the point even?
Centrist rag that's more concerned about Block Party and how cool it is and how everything's just awesome than anything else. So that's the biggest news in Seattle this week, obviously.
Yeah.
But Colin, you got some other stuff to round up for us, right?
So there was some other goings on. This was a big week besides our Twitter feud. But a local rapper, Spec, came out and made a parody video of the SPD lip sync with our good Mayor Durkin that spliced footage from real incidents of clashes with Seattle Police Department with their dumb song that they were doing. So that was pretty funny. If you didn't see that, Spec posted that. And like I said, he's a local rapper. You can find him on Twitter at SPEKULATION. And you probably will find that.
Yeah, I recommend checking that out. But also, even just the original video of their little parade that went around is funny enough.
Yeah.
Mayor Jenny at the head of a parade of cops where she belongs. I mean, they're literally on segways. I mean, it's so good.
Well, and we found out via this parody video that Macklemore did approve the use of his song for the SPD.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, that was part of the Times piece on this.
He's like, segways? The mayor? All the cops in the city marching in uniform down the street? Yeah, great. Great. At the head of the top cop, Mayor Jenny herself.
Just pouring out the drinks of homeless people that they encounter on the way.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that happened, and that might give you a little bit of perhaps joy or a little bittersweet joy. And it was also announced that the Showbox, the day after celebrating its 79th anniversary, would be torn down by the Omni Group, which is a Vancouver developer who purchased the property for $100 million to build 440-foot apartment tower that will have 442 units, ground floor retail, and best of all, 88 parking spots.
Hey, well,
now we're talking.
You know, there's bound to be another coffee shop on that ground floor, so
most likely
that's what Seattle needs.
I mean, I guess we did just lose to Cherry Street that was down over there too for a giant thing. But
I didn't know that. You know, we could sit here and list like just Seattle changing, and it's like it's so much bigger. The problems that we have related to that are so much bigger than like losing like a crappy but large venue space. Like, you know, the loss of culture in this city is like something that you and I have talked about, but like this is like a story that gets picked up and talked about when it's really like there are neighborhoods where people have lived for generations on low incomes that they've just been forced out of by development, by rising prices to basically just disappear into the ether. Yeah. In terms of the impact of gentrification, it's pretty minimal, but of course, you know, it did definitely make the rounds as a story.
So that's one bit of great news. And then there's some other news, more Mayor Durkin going on, where she threw a monkey wrench into the old streetcar.
But she fucking hates that streetcar.
She just loathes it. She's doing everything she can to discredit the project. But if you didn't see this, there was a story in the Times, and this story allegedly came out of the mayor's office. So this came from the mayor, and it was that the 10 new cars that they bought.
It's the one. I mean, this is the project that had already like shut down. Basically,
yeah, that she halted, and it was being
for whole review.
Being reviewed. So they purchased 10 new cars for this, and
this before they shut it down, presumably.
Yes, I believe so, for $52 million, and this was, of course, leading the headline here, or leading very short to the headline. The speculation from the office was that these new cars would not fit on the tracks, and many outlets...
It's a weird thing to speculate about.
Absolutely, and then to disseminate to the Seattle Times, who will probably just publish what you gave them.
Well, if it's damaging to any kind of public infrastructure project, then... So the mayor's office came out and said, we bought we bought $50 million worth of cars, and I'm pretty sure they suck. They won't fit. Like, that was... How do you not know that? It's a basic thing. Streetcar, like, train tracks come in gauges, you know?
Well, and that's it exactly, and that is what was more or less debunked, to the point where the Times changed its headline online.
Because that's insane.
Yeah, the Urbanist debunked it. Many other people on Twitter I saw debunked it, saying there's a standard for the tracks. It doesn't really matter how big the cars are. They're gonna fit on the tracks. And
if they ordered them if they had ordered them somehow for the wrong gauge of track, like a colossal fuck up. Also for but a lot of people would have to fuck. This is it's not like. They're a standard. This is some kind of small gauge standard train.
And the only concession that the people like the Urbanist, the publications, and people out there fighting this story have given the mayor's office is that it is possible, it does look likely, that these new bigger cars are too big for their garage, essentially. But as the Urbanist pointed out, that's a really easy fix. You just make it a little wider.
I mean, it tells you everything. It's obviously, they will do anything to kill this project. And I can't, what, does anyone have any understanding of, why specifically? It's just basic infrastructure austerity, or what? They just hate public spending on transportation? And this is the project that's most vulnerable? Or... Yeah,
it's unclear. You're probably right about that. I'm not sure that all that many people are aware of it.
People aren't aware of it. People think of it as being kind of dumb anyway. The sort of line they tried to spread around was it doesn't go anywhere, It's it's because it doesn't go anywhere now because the two short pieces of it are not connected. But this new part of the project would connect the First Hill streetcar to the South Lake Union streetcar, which you would be able to then take from East Lake all the way through South Lake Union through downtown, up to the International District up to First Hill.
Which actually sounds wonderful.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And I think most of that, it's timed with the lights. It has its own lane, some parts of it, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, they just fucking hate this shit. Durkin is absolutely ready and willing to look like a fucking moron if it undermines like public infrastructure spending or, you know, sort of civic spending in general. I mean, just look at the head tax, the repeal. They all looked fucking stupid. And from her perspective, it's a win. Like, that's how she thinks. They're like, look, government's incompetent. That's how we totally misbudgeted this project by tons. Like, they'll do damage control on everything else, but if it means, like, cutting spending, they're willing to, like, throw themselves under the bus and look very stupid.
So the other big sort of crony capitalism story that I think broke sort of in the middle or late this week is that the Mariners have requested that the city raise $180 million to pay for part of a $385 million improvement project to Safeco Field.
Root for the home team.
And they have said that they will only sign their 25-year term lease if the city comes up with this cash. So
if you want evidence that our entire like economic and government system needs to change, it would be fucking professional sports and the relationships they have to the cities they play in. Like, for fuck's sake, man. I've actually been to Safeco pretty recently, and it's a beautiful ballpark.
Oh, yeah, it's very nice.
I'm sure it's, you know, look, of course you could spend money on upkeep, and I am not actually against that. Like, that's the problem, is like right now, because we don't have progressive taxation, because wealth inequality is skyrocketing, because people are on the streets, and we're thinking, and we can't pay to change that, we can't pay for public infrastructure of any kind, and we don't want it, then this does seem fucking preposterous to spend $200 million on taking out the graffiti in the bathrooms at Safeco or something.
Yeah.
The relationship we have where these for-profit teams to extort this money and we built the fucking thing for them, and then they can turn around and extort this money. This relationship where the city has to provide this place to play for the privilege of having this for-profit company there. It's fucked up, and I think it confuses a lot of things. At the end of the day, fuck it, I'm all for paying for it in a very different system altogether.
Yeah. Right.
People like baseball, people like fucking sports. It's a big part of our civic culture. And I think a pretty reasonably positive and benign one, especially, you know, if we're talking about baseball specifically and not professional sports in general.
Yeah.
Because the NFL should just absolutely go away. If we had a very different system here, a very different way of thinking about this, it would be like, oh yeah, we're probably going to spend, like, on this big civic sort of thing, we're going to spend several million a year keeping it up and improving it forever, you know, and for the public good. Of course, in this scenario, the team would be publicly owned, and we'd be taxing the shit out of billionaires and paying for public infrastructure, trains, and public housing, and all this stuff. That's how fucked up our society is now, that I think this is one of these issues that we get confused on about, like, yeah, it's total bullshit. These people asking for this money at a time like this, us spending it at a time like this, but only because our whole shit is fucked up.
Yeah, we have a lot of systemic problems in the city and the nation at large, for sure. What's unfortunate, too, is that this initiative to raise this money was raised by Dow Constantine. And
it sounds like we've got a regional solution to keeping the Mariners in town.
Exactly. And so he has a few other members of the King County Council on board with this plan. So the way that they want to fund this is through the hotel tax, I believe that's what it's called, which is what is currently instituted to pay back the construction of CenturyLink Field. But Dow specifically said that he felt like the stadium, Safeco Field, was such a boon to tourism that it would be a really good investment because this money was set aside for tourism and housing projects. So
that sounds reasonable to me. Again, in different circumstances. You know, it's like, yeah, no, that makes sense. If that's a tax that was made to pay for stadiums and justified by tourism, and it's taxing tourism.
Yeah.
I mean, great. But the problem in this scenario is not that stadiums cost a lot of fucking money. It's every other fucking thing. in our society.
Mm-hmm.
Look, they're going to end up paying for it.
We'll see. I don't know. The story I read made it sound like the county council was mostly on board with this plan. We'll know more tomorrow, Monday, when they meet, probably.
Yeah, I mean...
There's only one outspoken dissenting voice, which was Dave Upthegrove. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly.
It is that silly.
But he had some good quotes along the lines of what we've been talking about. But,
well, I don't know. I think they'll end up... some compromise will be made. They'll pay for renovations that are needed, whatever. I mean...
Well,
I don't know.
Already some of the rhetoric is spinning this as a compromise because the Mariners need to raise pay $385 million to do the improvements. And they're only asking the city for 180, so they're technically on the hook for the remainder.
Yeah, so we'll drive them down a little, I guess, probably, right?
Yeah.
But whatever.
Since this episode is almost exclusively, it seems like, about money in our city, there's another story that came out this week about Amazon and their benevolence to our city. And I don't know if you saw this, Greg, but Amazon has contributed or donated $1.5 million to increase some public transit capacity. Specifically, it sounded like bus lines, which would pay for about 22 trips, which I think ended up being about 1,700 people.
It sounds like the system is working, Colin. Our billionaire overlord has, stepped up to the plate and is fulfilling his responsibility as our liege. What's the problem here? I guess is what I'm asking.
I can't put it any more succinctly than David Rolfe did, who's the president of the SEIU and the architect of Fight for 15, when he said, "Stunning, a corporation deciding which public services it approves of and funding government as if it were a charity while killing progressive tax reform. KC Metrobus, King County Metrobus, should decline this corrupting and anti-democratic gift." We talked about this last week. With
so Day is right. He said he was writing a piece basically on this subject of the political power of the billionaire class and how they can sway these initiatives. They can pay for these initiatives even when they're good things like made possible gun reform. But basically, they have all this power. This increases that power.
Mm-hmm.
This is what some people want them to do. This is what the defenders of these companies are like. Well, they can solve our problems. Look, we should look to them. And it's like. It's what he said there. It's anti-democratic, which means very little to anyone anymore. But it's what it is noblesse oblige. Okay, at best, actually. Really, they're deciding to pay for this because it benefits them.
It's not charity by any means. It's self-serving.
It would cost them. They'd have to put even more money into solving it themselves. So they're basically contracting out this problem to the city or to the county, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's the power they have. We could have taxed that money, and we could have paid for the things we need the most in this city, and more.
Right.
We could have done that democratically.
Mm-hmm.
As a society, but no, it comes down to the executives at Amazon deciding and having the power. And even if this is more money, particularly if you're talking about that annually, right?
And that's what I couldn't see if this was a recurring thing. I think it was meant to be activated in the fall, or if it's a one-time increase.
Well, this is the power they have. This is why what we said about the head tax is it wasn't ever about the money. They have the money. They can stand to lose a ton of money. It's about the power. It's the principle of taxation is bad. If you can tax them, that's power you're taking away from them. Now, them spending the money, they don't care. That's not about it, as long as it's done on their terms with their approval, because that reflects on their power. They have this power over us.
Right.
In a very real way, also, it makes us more and more dependent on them. Dependent on the charity of billionaires,
and their whims.
Yeah, and that makes us subservient to them. Now, it's very obvious in this city. We've just watched this city do this amazing snap to attention. Jeff asked them to jump, and they said how high, and repealed that head tax. Again, willing to look like idiots doing it. This only reinforces that.
And to a point you made about the way this would be received by a lot of people, as I'm wont to do, read some of the comments, and you're right on. Everybody was using this donation as evidence of Amazon's, as I said before, their benevolence and their commitment to the city and how Shama was just so wrong. That Amazon is so wonderful and all giving. Of course, I'm being a bit hyperbolic, but that was the root of this, and they did bring up Shama.
That's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, but people, we know that. This is the American dream, right? Is to just be able to witness the success of business, right? To witness someone winning is the new American dream, you know? Just to be able to see, like, look, they're fucking killing it and owning me. It's like to be domed. Yeah. Like to see, like we all just want to be domed now. And yeah, like that's it. It's just feudalism. Like we just want our feudal lord to be benevolent. We want to believe, no matter what the evidence, that we are lucky and that our feudal lord is benevolent and take seriously their expressions of noblesse oblige. You know, their obligation to the peasants. Yeah, we love it, man. We love it.
Very well put, and also chilling. But speaking of our feudal lord and loving to win, I'm not sure if you saw this, Greg, but the BBC put a piece out on Spaceboy Bezos.
Woo!
It's back in the news. So this was 2 days ago, and the headline is "How Jeff Bezos Took Amazon to the Top."
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Winning!
Yeah. Cue 80s theme.
Yeah. That's how I just pictured Jeff Bezos sliding across a hardwood floor in his underwear, actually.
And someone saying, take him to the top!
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait for this. This is going to be great.
So I would love to
read this at the BBC?
This is Natalie Sherman, and it says she's a business reporter in New York.
So
maybe this
libertarian shithead is what, you know.
A future Seattleite.
Yeah, seriously. Move here. You will love it. We haven't even read your article. I already know that you would love this place.
It opens with this beautiful photo of young Jeff when he still had some hair. 1997, the year Amazon became a
when he looked like company. He looks like a baby, but like an old man at the same time. Yeah,
he looks like
very
Gene
Benjamin
Siskel,
Button. You know? Yeah, actually, yeah.
Thumbs up. But he's standing in front of some very austere-looking shelves and smiling. His impish little smile. It leads off saying, "Perhaps Jeff Bezos had a crystal ball."
That's how he did it. He saw the future. This is already fucking awesome,
dude. You're in for
a real treat.
You were in for a treat.
No one ever sold a thing before.
2 decades ago,
fucking idiot.
He foresaw a future when a click would conjure anything from pet food to caviar.
Yeah, you know who else foresaw that future? Anyone who was interested enough to think about it. Seriously,
almost every science fiction writer ever.
Yeah, and then everyone who invested in the internet, in the hyper overvalued .com sector, the entire population of irrationally exuberant New York shitheads. Like, that's not seeing the future. Everybody knew commerce would exist on the internet, that you would be able to. This is like,
well, it's not new. This is not actually new.
No.
It's just moving commerce to a new medium. It isn't actually new.
Yeah, it is less like the brick and mortar stores that immediately preceded it, and more like the fucking Sears catalog.
Right.
Like, it's like people have been ordering shit mail order from pictures and prices on a page for a long time.
Yeah, maybe even forever.
So just dismiss that right now. The idea that any of this was an original idea. He wasn't the first person to sell anything on the internet or think that he could sell other things. That has nothing to do with it. There's no invention here at all. They didn't invent anything.
No. Malls would fade in popularity, and shops would have to offer entertainment or convenience to survive.
What?
That's what it says.
So he foresaw...
So Jeff saw Thunderdome for brick and mortar retail if he could succeed.
Again, that was... I mean, go back and read any, Wall Street Journal analysis in the mid-90s going like, this is real, it's going to, this is going to take market share away from brick and mortar. online business. Like it's just a reality. It's so much. There's so much less overhead that's fucking inevitable.
Yeah.
Again, he didn't invent shit. You're an idiot. Go on.
Then he built an empire in that image.
Cue John Williams.
Yeah. The Amazon Uber Alice. Amazon, which he founded in 1994, is now vying to become the world's first trillion-dollar company.
Oh, the race is on! Everybody's down at the tracks.
And it's been a rough week this week for Twitter and for Facebook.
Yeah.
And Facebook lost $100 billion in a day. The biggest loss.
Nothing lasts
ever. So their Amazon's odds are looking real good. Having transformed from niche second-hand bookseller to global jack of all trades.
That's part of the mythology, and it's insane. They were just like, as if it was just like a mom and pop bookshop that happened to be online that just like naturally, gradually, organically expanded to selling more things is like obvious like bullshit propaganda mythology. That's not it at all.
And that's what
he's a fucking hedge fund guy or
an investment banker.
Investment banker. He's an investment banker. That was his whole thing, was getting rich people to put money into internet business and other things. What he saw was that, yes, like a lot of... He read a newspaper and saw that the internet commerce was going to be big. And he sat down and thought, what's a starting point on a store online? What's the A product I could start with? And he probably had a list of a bunch of them. It's not that he's like an avid reader and has cats, and him and his wife just always wanted to own a bookstore but couldn't afford the lease on Main Street, okay? He sat down and said, what I want to sell, I want to get in on this shit that I'm putting other people's money to invest in other companies. I want to get in on this. And what's the starting point? Could be anything. He probably had a list of 100 fucking things, and he thought down to what is the lowest overhead, lowest sort of infrastructure, physical thing that I can sell. Yeah. He arrived at books. So, congratulations.
That's just innovation.
Not the only person to sell books online either.
Still not the only people.
No.
But Mr. Bezos, now the world's richest person, claims higher aims than just reshaping the world's retail market. And then the article's interspersed with a picture of modern-day Bezos, the star child, completely bald, wearing aviators in front of a rocket.
It's one of our favorite pictures.
It's pretty beautiful.
I have it tattooed on my balls.
He privately owns the Washington Post newspaper. His aerospace firm, Blue Origin, plans to sell tickets for space travel next year. He has also hinted he will announce philanthropic plans this summer. Are you ready for that,
Coming
Greg?
soon.
The big blockbuster. Philanthropy.
Our savior. He will announce a plan to solve all our social problems with his wealth.
I can't wait. That really has to be coming soon. We're running out of summer.
Yeah, seriously.
Wow, I wait with bated breath, Bezos. Years ago, his high school girlfriend told Wired that she had always expected him to make a fortune, tracing his drive to an early dream of exploring outer space. It wasn't about money itself. It was about what he was going to do with the money, about changing the future, she told the magazine.
He was a relentless sociopath. I could see it all along.
Who liked science fiction. Space colonies is the next headline. Signs of Mr. Bezos' ambitions emerged decades ago. The child of teen parents who quickly divorced, he was raised largely in Texas and Florida by his mother, Jackie, and his stepfather, Mike Bezos, an Exxon executive who had fled Cuba as a teenager after Fidel Castro came to power. He displayed an...
And they just sort of, in one sentence, skitter over very,
money.
very wealthy executive in one of the most powerful corporations in the history of the planet Earth, and sort of sauce it up with, he's a refugee,
Because clearly he was.
He was a refugee of redistribution of wealth. That's so. Jeff comes from a long line of wealthy people fleeing and fighting the redistribution of their land and wealth.
Well, wait till you hear this. He displayed an early inclination for engineering and science, dismantling his crib with a screwdriver at the age of 3.
That's a real reach, but this is so who gives a shit?
Well, this is the myth making.
If this guy had actually invented... If we were talking about Einstein, that would be a cute story, you know? Or, like, fucking Thomas Edison or something. But, like, this is just a thing a weird kid did. Like, this man has invented nothing.
In a high school graduation speech, he outlined a vision for establishing colonies in outer space. Can you imagine? He must have been reviled.
Dude, oh my god. What a fucking nerd.
He used his high school graduation speech to stump for colonizing space.
That is, like, that's actually hard to even imagine.
I bet you could hear the eyes rolling.
Seriously. You can hear them now.
I know,
it's
Jesus.
Like what Sean said about that dinner he spoke at about colonizing space. You could hear people with, like, fork and knives on their plate. It's the same thing, dude. Like... He's just a fucking dork.
Yeah, they're like, it's Jeff's on
his
bullshit again.
Yeah, he probably, like, was constantly talking about that in the hallways and before class, too. And he had no friends, probably.
At Princeton University, Mr. Bezos studied engineering and computer science, later using his skills at financial companies in New York, where he met his wife, Mackenzie, now a novelist, at the hedge fund D.E. Shaw. At the age of 30, he quit after coming across a statistic about the rapid growth of the internet.
At what year was this?
Well, it says at 30, so if we cared to know his age, it must have been early 90s.
Yeah, so he was very rich. He came from very rich people. He was very rich and a hedge fund investment banker guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he, again, like I said, came across the statistic. He read the Wall Street Journal, 1,000 articles, and all over, like, the world saying the internet was going to be a big thing. And it's like anyone who cared to imagine it could see the potential there. It's not like the internet wasn't around now. The internet existed, you know, like,
yeah.
There were pages. Movies had pages. Yeah, it was. We're not talking about, like, 1983. When, like, it was some guys at, like, Stanford and MIT, like, IMing each other.
Yeah. Like
dick jokes.
In a 2010 speech at Princeton, Mr. Bezos recalled his decision to head west and start Amazon as the less safe path. I decided I had to give it a shot. I didn't think I'd regret trying and failing.
Because I was set for life at that point.
Because I can't fail.
I had nothing, like, I couldn't... Okay, this is not like some Horatio Alger story, like rags to riches. This is riches to more riches.
Most riches.
Yes, riches to more riches on Wall Street to most riches in online retail. Like, so he was able to, yes, take this leap of entrepreneurship because he could not work another day in his life, and him and his family would be fine. His children would still be princes among men.
And I suspected I would always be haunted by a decision to not try at all, he said.
Can I get that on a poster?
Mr. Bezos' gamble, funded with more than $100,000 in personal and family money, quickly paid off. Within a month of Amazon's 1995 launch, it had already shipped orders to all 50 states.
Oh, shipped orders? Quickly paid off? Shipped orders? No. That's not the same thing, you fucking idiot. You're supposed to be a business reporter. It did not pay off. They did not make back $100,000, did it say?
That's what it said. But
that's of their family and personal money. Yeah. He had other investments as well, and no, it did not pay off, you idiot. They have still not made a dime on their fucking, like, book selling. They did not pay off anything. They shipped books. They successfully took that investment money and used it. They spent money. They didn't get paid off. They spent money. They got a lot of fucking money from a lot of rich people, including themselves, and they spent it, you fucking fool.
Well, as people who don't have a lot of money to spend, there's some allure to that, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
In Amazon's first 5 years, customer accounts jumped from 180,000 to 17 million. Sales skyrocketed from 511,000 to more than 1.6 billion.
The stats.
Numbers, yeah. This is the wonkery of this Cinderella story.
Look, they did a good job. They got very lucky. Wait, what were the years that it said?
Well, so she says first 5 years. So then she said 95 launch. So I guess maybe this would be as of 2000.
Right. So they grew. Keeping in mind, this is a time, the late 90s, when the internet was exploding, when tons of companies were growing like that with usership, and were raising a ton of money.
Yeah.
That level of growth comes from this being this brand new thing that in the late 90s everyone in America and a lot of the world finally adopted, you know? It was brand new to people then. It had been around for a long time, but people adopted it in the late 90s and started using it.
Yeah.
And it's like tons of sites had users, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Notice she doesn't say anything about like their profit margin.
No.
So or how much money they got in investment capital
that would just
continually every year. Also, she goes up to just up to 2000, and we're this is when the whole fucking the irrational exuberance in this sector caused the entire economy to collapse.
Right.
In a minor way.
Yeah.
And all these companies to lose to lose their investment capital, essentially.
Right.
And we're going to find out, maybe, that Amazon didn't.
Well, she goes on to say, big-name investors flocked to the company amid the first wave of dot-com enthusiasm. It went public in 97, raising $54 million and turning Mr. Bezos, who once helped to box up the book orders, that is their favorite little story. That anytime he speaks, he has to mention that. Into one of the world's richest men before the age of 35. In 1999, Time magazine named him one of its youngest ever People of the Year, dubbing him the King of Cyber Commerce. Known for being an exacting boss, Mr. Bezos has guided Amazon with what he describes as a long-term strategy and heads-down focus on the customer. In practice, that has meant the firm is willing to spend money to make money, foregoing annual profit for 10 out of 23 years, as it cut prices, offered free shipping, and spent years developing new devices like its Kindle e-reader.
Well, how do you do that? How do you literally spend more than you bring in for 10 years? The way you do that is you get investment capital that is convinced that this plan will work, is taking that risk. And this is how he survives, where he comes from, and how he survives the dot-com crash. All that investment that there were, these big-name investors, like it says, so many companies were getting investment money. So many companies were racking up, quote, users. This is everybody. The difference being, a lot of those companies were like real entrepreneur stories of like either small, computer programmers or other people who hired programmers to for businesses they were passionate about, or and all these other stories. The difference is the thing that separates him and why they all have their funding pulled is that they don't have, as their CEO and founder, a well-loved and connected hedge fund guy. Mm-hmm. That's his genius. That's his achievement, is being able to go into, at that time, to rooms of these people going, no, you can stick with me. I'm one of you. I get it. This is what we're going to lose money so that we can put other sectors out of business and take them over in the long run.
Yeah, because what she's describing is loss leading.
Yeah.
But Amazon also hasn't hesitated to save where it could, making headquarters employees pay for parking, battling with suppliers, opposing efforts to organize labor unions at its warehouses,
pay for parking,
and avoiding taxes as much as possible.
God knows.
The firm experienced some failures, like early investments in sites like Pets.com that later lost money. But today, even those look like a sign of its relentless competitive spirit and willingness to experiment.
It's so banal, but Yes, they won. So now you look back and look. Every little thing is a sign of them winning along the way.
Right. Last year, it purchased upmarket grocer Whole Foods. This year, it announced the takeover of an online pharmacy. Executives say they are scouting for other deals.
They invented the concept of
acquisition,
of monopolizing,
yeah.
of capturing market share. It's like they're just. That's another thing that I guess maybe we haven't even talked about in this aspect. Is like they're a company that has grown up and been successful in an environment that was in a regulatory environment that was different from, previous generations.
Mm-hmm.
There's been no antitrust enforcement for decades. There has never really been any regulatory oversight of commerce on the internet, or even taxation to a large degree. They've grown up in this period where it was like a capitalist Wild West.
Amazon's rise, as former retail stalwarts like Sears, Toys R Us, and Barnes & Noble struggle, has drawn critics concerned about its monopoly power, its tax and labor practices, even its responsibility for driving up housing costs in its hometown of Seattle. When the firm announced last year it would build another major campus in North America, local officials scrambled to win the firm's commitment, even as protesters, angry about the prospect of tax incentives going to one of the world's most successful companies, mounted anti-Amazon campaigns. In the face of those critics, Mr. Bezos has started to cultivate a more public presence on Twitter, where he shares photos of his parents and videos of dog sledding in Norway.
The royal family is just like you and me.
Please don't cut my head off.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying. Amazon has also fought back with cash, more than doubling its spending on lobbying since 2014 to about $13 million last year, according to Open Secrets.
That's pretty low.
But there you go, to our previous point. They're now getting ready to make it happen in government with their money. With a fortune worth about $150 billion, the 54-year-old Mr. Bezos has also faced questions about his relatively limited philanthropic activity. He recently hinted he will increase his giving, with an announcement expected later this summer. And then it shows this tweet that he posted in June that says, "A year ago tomorrow, I tweeted asking for philanthropy ideas and thoughts. The response was inspiring. Thoughtful.
I have no inner life. I have no thoughts within my own head. I can't figure out I can't look around at the world and figure out a single way to that my billions of dollars could change it for the better."
No, not being a human being.
I needed to tease this out. Is really the
yeah.
He made it a sweepstakes or something.
Yeah, well, this is part of his myth making too. I think.
Yeah.
I wanted to take this opportunity to let those of you who had made suggestions know that I've settled on 2 areas that I'm very excited about, and that I'll announce the 2 areas before the end of this summer. If I'm lucky, I may be able to announce some hiring then too. Until then, #thank you.
Oh, so are we are there odds on what he's going to go with?
There probably are somewhere.
The funniest thing would be if he comes back and says like Blue Origin is a charity because I'm going to save human race by transporting them to other planets.
I'm about 50-50 on that. I could see him doing
trying to spin that some way. But okay, if he's really serious about spending $1 billion, I don't know. It's got to be something. This is going to be something that's been tested by PR firms, been polled by manicured, something everybody that super virtuous. I mean, does it end up having to be fighting homelessness? Is that the moral of all this for them? Is well, if you just leave us alone, that's going to be the coup de grace. They come back and they do build public housing in every city in America, or Amazon housing, I should say, in every city in America.
That is so humiliating.
Yeah, right?
I mean, it would be a positive thing if they did, but for Seattle, I can't.
Yeah.
There's almost nothing I can imagine more humiliating than that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, seriously. That would reinforce our sort of thesis about it not being about the money. That would be that's fucking Machiavellian, man. That's That's like come back, like fight it and come back and just do it. But again, on his terms as the king, you know, like that would be incredible if like they're buying up land right now and like they're gonna start construction, or some of those buildings that are going up right now are secretly for like low income housing operated by Amazon. They're gonna bring people off the street and give them like Amazon Go script that they can.
Bezos bucks.
Yeah, Bezos bucks, of course. Yeah, that would be amazing. That would fucking rule. That would be. I would even be like just the sheer like.
It's so brazen.
Like yeah, that would be incredible. To say it would like ruin America, I don't know. It's obviously long gone as a concept. America's always pretty much sucked, and it's even worse now. He could be president after that. I don't know why he'd want to be. It's smarter to just stay out of it. If he did something like that, I mean, what's he doing? I mean, what's he doing with his money? Like, he's got to think, if he's taking this long, like,
he's
the Gates Foundation was about, like, the amount of money, right? It was like, this is how much money. We've got all this money. We're going to put it, and we're going to find the smartest technocratic solution. We're going to get the experts on. We're going to find all these targeted ways, there's like 100 different things that they're doing that they're like, we're going to find these targeted ways for the best bang for the buck, right?
Yeah.
But the smarter move is probably to do something that makes a fucking statement. This is a play out of Carnegie's book. He did a lot of stuff too, but like he did a handful of things that are very visible. It's famously to this day, the libraries. Right. He invented the public library by building private libraries everywhere in America.
Well, Amazon local bookstores, maybe that's what he'll do, right?
Yeah. Oh man, that
he will reinvent. He will innovate, disrupt the public library.
Holy shit! No, wait a minute. That could be it, dude. Like that could be that article in was it in Bloomberg?
Forbes.
Oh, it was Forbes, right? That guy about replacing public libraries with Amazon bookstores was amazing and awesome. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's what he's doing. I don't know.
So the only clue we get is the conclusion of this piece, which is, last year, while soliciting ideas, Mr. Bezos said he expected to approach philanthropy differently than he does his businesses, focusing on immediate impact rather than the long term. The world will be waiting to see if the new strategy still means success. So
I'm inspired.
That could be an interesting clue, though, as to what he pursues.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna stick with this theory that he is going to solve homelessness in America. Not just like start here, but like solve homelessness in America, like low income housing for everybody, and fix capitalism. You know, that's the win. Ultimately, like what else is he gonna do with all that fucking money? Like,
right
at this point, it is just about that power. It's like people would be saying, talking about him for hundreds of years, like,
yeah,
and all hope for our democracy would probably be lost. I don't know. That I'm gonna stick with that. We're going to actually, in the end, just be saved by billionaires and all this shit I talk about, like, progressive taxation and it's in a way, it's a charity is sort of philanthropy can potentially address material concerns, and if they can do an end run around those concerns, like the material concerns of human beings, then they'll be kings on earth forever. Great news, everyone.
That is some bleak shit, right?
Hey, I mean, it won't be so bleak if he really does it. It's real. It's not just like PR bullshit that is stupid. If he did, he has enough money to seriously go fucking nuts.
You're right about that.
And hey, that could be good for the lives of a bunch of people if he did that. I'm talking like really, really do it. Well, that article was obsequious and pathetic. They just want to smell like billionaire farts. Like.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said. They love a winner.
America loves a winner.
Yeah.
I think that's the moral of our story.
Mm-hmm.
America loves a winner. Great. Okay, well, all you winners out there, keep on winning.
Yeah.
Or if you can't win, at least witness someone else winning.
Yeah, that's important.
That's really...
Be winning adjacent.
Yes. And really, as Americans, as Seattleites,
exactly.
we all are.
We are,
so,
truly.
Yeah, all right. So...
Yeah, so make sure to follow us on Twitter so you can see what kind of animus and fights we stir up with local writers. We're at Seattle Sucks Pod.
If somehow you haven't listened to our talk with Daeshik Kim Hawkins Jr., that's the previous episode. Check that shit out.
Yeah, please do that.
He's a cool guy. We do have a Patreon. Because why not? I mean, people demanded it. People wanted to give us a ton of money, so we were just like, sure, why not?
Well, they wanted to push us into the billionaire class. So.
Yeah, they wanted to win vicariously through us, which I can deal with that. So
winning is winning.
Seattle loves a winner. And with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Goodbye, everyone.
Yep.
Goodbye, Colin.
Goodbye.